Hello everyone, this is Kaushik Kumar from SRIRAM Law Academy. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a big problem that many students face. Now, what happens a lot of times is that students end up making a very big timetable. They try to be organized, they try to make a really good plan and they try to stick to it. But sometimes they just can't do it. And just some days they just don't feel like working at all and they don't work. Now, as a result of not working, they feel guilty and they feel really bad. And as a result, you just end up feeling like not working even more. And it just becomes a very vicious cycle that you're stuck in where you just don't feel like working, you feel bad, and then you just don't work anymore. And it just goes on and on and on. Now, this is something which is very natural, which is faced by almost all students at some point of time or the other. So this video, I'm going to be telling you how you can get past this particular issue that you're generally facing. Now, some students might be feeling this issue is coming up because of the fact that they're not taking enough breaks, or that they feel that they're being overworked, or they get very exhausted easily, which is why they feel very tired and they feel they just don't have the energy to work. So which is why breaks are extremely important. Now, I mean breaks as in breaks within the sessions that you put in for work. Like if you're studying for an hour, make sure you take a break of at least 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm talking about breaks as well, in the sense that, let's say you've been working constantly for a month or 2 months continuously. Take a break for a day or two from the work that you're doing, because you get mentally exhausted by putting in that much effort every single day. So a day or two break in the middle can really help rejuvenate yourself and can give you that little bit of breathing space for you to get back in line with the amount of the same intensity that you want to work in. So breaks are extremely important. Make sure that you're very well rested. Make sure that you're not exhausting and burning yourself out, because that could potentially be the reason as to why you just don't feel like working some days, and then we spoke about the vicious cycle that follows. Now, this is for very few people who suffer this kind of overworked or burnout, so to speak. Now, for most of the other students, this kind of an issue is faced very regularly, even though they're not working too hard. It's more of a internal mental issue where they just don't feel like working. They just don't feel like putting in that kind of effort. Now, there are some very easy tips that you can follow to try and overcome this particular issue. One of the first things that I want to talk about is to try and change your work environment. Now, sometimes it can feel like, because you're stuck in the same place, like imagine you're working in your room and you've been working in your room for the past however long, from school, from the time you were a kid. Now, that environment can become a little dull sometimes. That can really put you down. And if you're stuck in a rut, if you're stuck in a really bad phase, being in the same environment will not particularly help you get out of that particular bad phase. So try to change your environment, try to switch to a different room in the house, try switching a different place or a different location, wherever you can possibly go. Try to change your environment, and automatically your mindset changes, in the sense that, okay, I'm in a new place now. So my mind is also new, my mind is also fresh. So I should be able to work this out and I should be able to continue working. So that can really help you get a little freshened up and just put you in a new perspective and a new mental space for you to get that a little bit of extra motivation for you to work in that particular day. Now, the next thing, and this is the most important thing, which a lot of students tend to miss out on, is to make sure that you reduce your workload for that day. Now, it's impossible for everybody to work with the same level of intensity every single day throughout the course of a few months. So there are going to be a few days when your intensity is going to drop a little bit. Now, the most important thing in those days is for you to make sure that you don't make it zero. That is, you don't be like, okay, I'm just not going to work at all. I'm just going to give up today. Now, that is not something which you should do. Now, make sure that you reduce your workload that day, and make sure you work with a little less intensity on that particular day. But it's extremely important that you still continue to work on that particular day, even when you're not feeling like it. So work slowly. Make sure that you're working. You have a limited number of workload. That is, you've set easier goals for you to achieve on that particular day, because you know that you don't have that level of intensity, you don't have that level of energy, and that on those days it's important for you to get at least something done rather than not work at all. And in those particular days when you feel like you're not working and you still manage to get something done, when you look back at it on the next day and feel like, oh, that was such a bad day, but I still managed to complete at least this much, and that can get you really motivated on the next day and just completely changes your viewpoint on how much you can actually push yourself in working. So in those particular days, try to reduce your workload. Work slowly. There's no issue of you having to finish the same amount of work as you usually do every single day. Try to work slowly because you will lack energy on that particular day. So make sure you work appropriately according to your energy levels. Now, having said that, there will be days when your energy levels fluctuate. Now, generally, your energy levels are bound to be the highest or the best right after you wake up from your, like after a good energizing sleep. That's when your energy levels are the highest, right? So it keeps fluctuating over days. It can go down right after, maybe after, if you have a heavy lunch or something, it can go down right after that. Or if you've gone out for like a workout, or if you're doing something fun, your energy levels can go up right after that as well. So identify what time your energy levels are at the highest. And in these particular days when you just don't feel like working, try to work around your energy levels. Try to work during the time when your energy levels are really high, because at that point of time, you'll still be able to get some of the work done, and you'll still be able to achieve something at the end of that particular day. So remember this, guys, this is a problem which is not something which you can avoid, right? It's going to happen to every single person. Every single student is going to face this problem at some time or the other. It's about managing this problem, and the better you manage it, the better you're going to be, because if you try to avoid this whole problem and ignore this, like it's not going to happen, and if you continue to force yourself really hard even during these days, you will just be spending a lot of time. You won't get the requisite rest that your body is clearly asking for, and you still won't be getting a lot of work done as well. So nothing is coming out of it, because at least if you reduce your workload, if you manage your time very well in these particular days, you'll at least get a little bit of a break, a little bit of a rest, which will give you that much energy in the next day for you to get back to the same intensity that you started out with. So another thing that you can do while you're stuck in these particular bad days, so to speak, is to try to reward yourself at the end of each day's work. So set yourself very achievable goals for that day. Change your daily goals for that particular day based on how you're feeling, how much you're motivated. Make sure your goals are reduced. And once you do achieve those goals, try to reward yourself with, say, okay, now that I've done so much, or even in this bad day, I managed to do this particular, do this well and get a lot of work done. I'm going to reward myself with, say, an hour or two of watching whatever you want, watching your TV shows, watching movies, going on social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it may be, whatever you feel is a rightful reward for you. Identify that and treat yourself with that reward at the end of a day, when even though you didn't feel like working, you still put in the hours, at least a little bit, and got a little bit of the chunk of work done. And that is something which is worthy of a natural reward. Because what happens then is that your mind is trained into thinking that, okay, the more I do work, the more rewarding it can be. And that's just essentially tricking your mind into getting a little more out of you every single day, even on the days when you're really, really not at your best. And it's about managing those particular days that's really going to make the difference between a student who's going to really do well in CLAT and like perform in any competitive exam, and those who just give up on those particular days. And finally, the one thing which I want to talk about is that all of this leads down to one particular factor, and that is your motivation and your drive. Now, as long as your motivation and your drive is from within, it is originating from you, then you can get through all of these bad days and still get a little bit of work done. But if your motivation is going to be external, if your motivation is going to be from your, maybe from you look at your friends and you don't want to fall behind, or it's because your parents are asking you to do it, or you just have the wrong reasons as to why you're preparing for these exams in the first place, that motivation will not last long, and that motivation will definitely not help on these particular bad days that I'm talking about. So make sure you identify what is actually pushing you towards achieving your goals. What is the reason why you're putting in so much effort in the first place? And make sure that that reason is coming from within and is originally coming in from coming from within you. Because as long as it's going to be external, it's not going to last for too long. It might seem nice, it might feel nice for like a few fleeting moments, but then after that, it's all going to be how badly you want it and how badly you have put in these efforts, and what kind of goals you want to achieve and where it's all coming from. So that motivation and drive needs to come from within you. Identify that, introspect, ask yourself what you're doing this for. And once you do figure that out, make sure you keep remembering that, because that is what is going to push you through these really, really difficult times. So remember, guys, this feeling that I've been talking about, this feeling of just not being productive that on any particular day, is something which happens to everybody. So don't worry about it. Don't panic. Don't beat yourself up too much about it. But it's all about, even during that time, you getting a little bit done. You're managing your workload during those times and making sure that at the end of it all, you've realized that you have achieved so much, even though if this wasn't a particularly productive day, because that is what will give you that little bit of confidence and again motivate you towards pushing an extra bit harder on the next day when you're going to be your normal self and you're going to be your most productive self. So keep all of this in mind. Go ahead, log on to the LMS and watch out for my classes and other marathons. Keep in mind all the tactics that I've just spoken about. I'll see you guys in the classes. With that, this is me, Kaushik, signing off.